The static hiss of the radio filled the cramped booth as DJ Mike Callahan leaned into the microphone, his voice a forced cheerfulness that didn't reach his eyes. Outside the station's fogged-up windows, the town of Black Hollow slept under a thick blanket of October mist. That's all for tonight, folks. Remember, his fingers tightened around the edge of the desk. A noise in the background. Something scratching at the studio door. If you're hearing this, don't come looking for us. A pause. Then, bang! The gunshot reverberated through the speakers before the transmission cut to dead air. 12 hours later, Detective Sarah Vance stepped over the broken glass of the radio station's entrance, her breath fogging in the unnatural chill. The place was deserted, but the coffee in the break room was still warm. Then she found him. Mike Callahan's body sat slumped in his chair, fingers curled around a .38 revolver. But his jaw was gone. Not shot off, ripped away, tendons dangling like frayed wires. The wound was too clean, too precise. Teeth marks, human teeth, glistened in the ragged flesh. Sarah's stomach lurched. Something made him do it, then took its payment. Her flashlight beam caught a slip of paper taped to the soundboard. Her pulse spiked. Don't trust Lucas. Her handwriting. She stumbled back, the note crumpling in her grip. She'd never written it, never even been here before. But the ink was fresh, the paper torn from her own notepad, the one in her pocket right now. A floorboard creaked behind her. Sarah whirled, hand on her sidearm, but the studio was empty, except for the faint, wet sound of something breathing from inside the walls. The shack stood at the edge of Black Hollow, its warped wooden boards groaning in the wind. Lucas Carter adjusted his recorder, the red light blinking like a watchful eye. Inside, the air smelled of damp earth and something sharper, like burning hair. The hermit sat hunched in a rocking chair, his yellowed nails digging into the armrests. His milky eyes followed Lucas as he settled onto a crate. "You're the only one left," Lucas began. "What happened to this town?" The old man's lips split into a grin, revealing blackened gums. "Ain't the first time, won't be the last." His voice was a dry rattle, like dead leaves scraping concrete. Lucas leaned forward. "What do you mean?" The hermit's gaze slid past him, fixing on Sarah as she lingered in the doorway. "Ask your detective. She knows. She's family." Sarah stiffened. "Bullshit." The old man chuckled, a wet sound deep in his chest. "Your mama never told you about me, did she? I was there the night you was born. Heard you screaming before you even took your first breath." His grin widened. "Just like the others." Sarah's hand twitched toward her sidearm. "I don't have a grandfather." The hermit opened his mouth to respond. Then his eyes caught fire. Flames erupted from his sockets, his skin blackening and peeling away in seconds. Lucas stumbled back, the heat searing his face. The hermit didn't scream. He laughed, his charred lips still moving as the fire consumed him. They're wearing their skins now. Then he collapsed into a pile of smoldering ash. Silence. Lucas's hands shook as he lowered his recorder. The ashes shifted, forming a symbol, a twisted spiral inside a circle. Sarah's breath hitched. She'd seen it before. In her dreams, on the walls of her childhood bedroom, scratched into the floorboards the night her mother disappeared. Lucas turned to her, his voice barely a whisper. What the hell is happening here? Outside, the wind howled through the trees, and something scratched at the door. The Black Hollow Historical Society building exhaled a breath of stale air as Sarah forced the rusted lock. Dust motes swirled in their flashlight beams, catching on cobwebs that draped the room like funeral veils. Lucas sneezed as he brushed past a shelf of yellowed newspapers, their headlines screaming about disappearances from decades past. "Look at this," Sarah said, her voice tight. She stood before a massive leather-bound photo album, its cover etched with that same damn spiral symbol. Her fingers left streaks in the thick dust as she opened it. The pages crackled like old bones. Black and white images showed stern-faced townspeople posing outside the church, gathered for harvest festivals, standing solemnly beside freshly dug graves. Normal history. Until... Sarah, Lucas's voice cracked. He pointed to a photo dated October 1910. A crowd stood before the courthouse, their faces blurred by time, except for two figures in the foreground, crystal clear. A woman in a long coat, her sharp features unmistakable. A man beside her holding an old-fashioned recording device. Sarah's flashlight clattered to the floor. That's not possible. Lucas flipped through more pages. There they were again, at a 1937 barn raising, at a 1962 school dedication. Always the same faces, always slightly out of place in their clothing. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for her phone. Your podcast, the one about haunted towns, what was it called? Dead Air. Why? She typed frantically, then turned the screen toward him. The search results showed nothing. No podcast, no episodes. Just a single news article from 11 months ago. Local journalist dies in single car crash. Lucas Carter, 34, was pronounced dead at the scene after his vehicle struck a tree on Route 17. Police report no signs of braking. Lucas's face drained of color. I'm right here. I recorded new episodes last week. Sarah backed away, her pulse pounding in her throat. The photo album suddenly snapped shut on its own, the sound like a gunshot in the silent room. From somewhere deep in the building came the faint, unmistakable sound of a radio crackling to life. The rain fell in silver needles, turning Black Hollow streets into black mirrors. Sarah's boots splashed through puddles as she and Lucas approached the town square, their flashlights cutting through the downpour. Then they saw her. A small figure stood motionless in the center of the square, her soaked nightgown clinging to a body that was all wrong. Too tall, too thin. "Emily?" Lucas called, stepping forward. "Emily Whitaker?" The girl turned. Sarah's breath caught. It was Emily, the first missing child, vanished 3 decades ago. But her face was a web of wrinkles, her hair white and brittle. Her fingers, gnarled with arthritis, clutched a rusted locket Sarah recognized from the case files. 50 years of aging in a single night. Emily's mouth opened. A sound like grinding teeth spilled out before forming words. "He's coming. The man with no face." Lucas reached for her. "Who?" Emily's head snapped toward him. "He wears yours now." Then she collapsed, her body crumbling like ash in the rain. Back at the sheriff's station, Sarah scrubbed her hands under scalding water, trying to wash away the image of Emily's decaying face. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering, and in the mirror, just for a second, her reflection kept scrubbing after she'd stopped. Sarah froze. Her reflection tilted its head and smiled. The trapdoor beneath the church groaned as Sarah pried it open, revealing a yawning black throat of a staircase. The smell hit them first, damp earth and something sweetly rotten, like meat left in the sun. Lucas shone his flashlight downward. The beam barely pierced the darkness. "You sure about this?" Sarah tightened her grip on her pistol. No. They descended. The walls weren't stone. They were ridged, veined, pulsing faintly like the inside of some enormous creature. Sarah's boot squelched in something wet. She didn't look down. The tunnel opened into a cavern, and there they were, hundreds of them. Men in familiar flannel shirts and jeans, their faces all turned toward the entrance, all slack-jawed, all glassy-eyed, all Lucas. Sarah's stomach lurched. Some were fresh, skin still pink. Others were little more than skeletons in rotting fabric. One near the front wore the exact same recorder strap Lucas had around his neck right now. Lucas made a choked sound. I remember this place." He touched his temple. "From my dreams." A crackle from Sarah's walkie. Static. Then, "Sarah?" Her own voice, ragged with panic. "If you can hear this, get out! Get out! Before you—" A wet gurgle. "Before you become one of them." The transmission cut off. Above them, the trapdoor slammed shut. The abandoned farmhouse on the edge of Black Hollow leaned like a drunkard, its porch sagging under decades of neglect. Sarah's boots punched through rotted floorboards as she followed Lucas inside, the scent of mildew and something metallic thick in the air. In the corner of the derelict living room, a woman rocked in a chair, her silhouette barely visible in the gloom. "You're the one who got away last time," the woman croaked. Her fingers, knotted with arthritis, clutched a faded photograph. "The only one who ever does." Sarah stepped closer. The photo showed a group of people in 1920s clothing standing before the Black Hollow Church. At the edge of the frame, a young woman with short dark hair turned away from the camera. Sarah's breath caught. That was her coat, her posture. The cycle resets every 30 years, the woman continued. Her yellowed teeth gleamed in the dim light. The town empties. The hungry dark feeds. Then it waits. She tapped the photo. You've been here before, Sarah Vance. You just don't remember yet. Lucas's voice shook. How do we stop it? The woman laughed, a wet, choking sound. You don't. You just die. Again and again. And her hands suddenly flew to her face. With a horrific tearing sound, she peeled her skin away like a mask. Beneath the flayed flesh was Sarah's own face, aged 60 years, eyes milky with cataracts, lips stretched in a rictus grin. Welcome home, dear, the thing that wore Sarah's face whispered. The front door slammed shut behind them. The church bell tolled once, a hollow sound that vibrated through Sarah's bones. She gripped her pistol tighter as she and Lucas crept toward the town square, their footsteps swallowed by the unnatural silence. Then they saw them. The missing townsfolk stood shoulder to shoulder in perfect rows, their backs turned, dressed in Sunday best, utterly still. The air smelled of wet earth and spoiled meat. Emily, Lucas called to the little girl at the edge of the crowd. As one, the figures turned. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Every face was hers. Every face was Lucas's. Hundreds of them, their features identical down to the scar on Sarah's chin, the mole above Lucas's eyebrow. Their mouths moved in unison. You took too long to join us. Lucas staggered back, hands flying to his own face. Sarah, I don't feel right. His words dissolved into a wet gurgle as his skin began to bubble. Sarah reached for him, but his flesh slid away like melted wax beneath her fingers. Underneath was another face. Hers. Lucas, or the thing that had been Lucas, smiled with Sarah's lips. Don't you recognize yourself? It asked in her voice. The ground trembled. The church doors blew open with a sound like a dying scream. From the darkness within, something tall and impossibly thin unfolded itself, its limbs cracking like dry branches as it stepped into the light. It had no face, just smooth skin where features should be, and it was reaching for Sarah. Sarah's hands trembled as she raised the pistol, the barrel wavering between Lucas's forehead and the advancing faceless horror. The air hummed with static, every hair on her arms standing upright. Lucas, or the thing wearing his dissolving face, smiled sadly. Do it, he whispered in her voice. It's the only way to start over. She pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the square, but Lucas didn't fall. Instead, white-hot pain exploded in Sarah's right shoulder. She staggered back, blood soaking through her shirt as Lucas's wound appeared in perfect unison with hers. "You see now," the Lucas thing said, touching its unharmed forehead. "We're the same. We've always been." A deafening crack split the air. The sky fractured like broken glass, shards of clouds peeling backward. The church unraveled, bricks flying upward, splintered wood reassembling. Sarah watched in horror as the bullet leapt back into her gun barrel, as her blood reversed its flow back into the wound. Time snapped like a rubber band. Suddenly, she was standing in the rain outside the radio station, the familiar sign creaking in the wind. WBLH, Black Hollow's finest. The DJ's voice crackled through outdoor speakers. "If you're hearing this, don't come looking for us." A gunshot rang out inside. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps. She knew without checking. The note was already in her pocket, the one in her own handwriting. The one that read, "Don't trust Lucas." Sarah's tires screeched as she fishtailed onto Route 17, the skeletal trees clawing at her car. In the rearview mirror, Black Hollow shrank into the pre-dawn gloom, its church steeple the last thing to disappear from view. She allowed herself one shuddering breath. Then the radio crackled to life. "If you're hearing this, don't come looking for us." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She slammed the brakes. The same DJ's voice, the same gunshot. Her hands shook as she turned the ignition, only for the engine to roar back to life on its own. The headlights illuminated a familiar sign. "Welcome to Black Hollow, Pop 1203. She was back at the town limits. The radio static resolved into a voice, her own, but worn thin by years of screaming. "You never left." Sarah's scream died in her throat as her gaze dropped to the GPS. The screen flickered. Destination, Black Hollow. Distance remaining, 999,999 miles. The odometer rolled backward, and the first raindrops hit her windshield.